Thanks for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we profile those who have overcome or those who are in the process of overcoming a life topic. We have three objectives with this podcast series. We want those who are encountering a life topic to know you're not alone in this. We want to join you, help you through whatever life topic you are encountering, and just know that we are there to help you. Our second objective is to help you be resolved in knowing there are multiple solutions to whatever life topic you are encountering. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills if you're encountering a situation that might be a result of a decision you made sometime in the past, that if you had a life redo, you would make a different decision based on a more informed view of all the facts and factors that would help you reach a more informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty. The Cooper Culture is sponsoring this podcast series. Today we feature Patrick Clark, who is joining us again for another episode where he discusses distractions. Marty, what are some takes that our listeners can listen for?
Ron, I really appreciate how Patrick explained mindset, the 12-step program, and he also explained about a breathing exercise that people can do to help them with their thought process.
I think what Patrick was saying, to just advance what you're saying, Marty, is that if you are intentional about wanting to overcome and reorient yourself, refocus yourself on distractions, that Patrick has a way that he can help people do just that. Let's listen together, Marty, and listen to what Patrick is saying about distractions.
Hi, Patrick. Great to have you back with us. Patrick, I read an article very recently about distractions. Very curious about your perception of distractions. Is it possible, from your perspective, that people are distracted and they maybe have accepted that in their life for so long that they don't even know about distractions? They are accepting whatever happens in their life. There, from my perspective, might be a lack of discipline in their life. And in your work with Recovery Centers of America, I'm just curious if maybe you see distractions being a part of substance abuse. And I'm not trying to suggest that all of this is happening, but it's as I read information and try to assimilate it, I'm curious from your perspective if you see anything that may be related to distractions.
Yeah, thank you, Ron, for having me. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm always willing to be of help to anyone who needs assistance anywhere. I think you nailed it. I think that I'll talk about distraction and where it actually occurs, but I think you really hit on a key point, which is, it said it a little bit differently, but our distractions are habitual, right? They've been occurring for so long that they just become natural to us. And really the place that the distractions are happening are not outside of us. They're actually happening in our mind, right? So if you really think about it, what happens is I grew up as a younger child, and we were brought into this life, and we start to do this, and we read this, and we got to go do this, and then we just send us off to school, and we got 9 classes, and we have this and this. Then at nighttime we're doing this, and we're doing this. And what happens is, in my perception, this isn't anything scientific, I couldn't prove it in a court of law, but I believe what happens is we become conditioned to continually think and do nothing but think. Just a constant stream of thought occurring in my head by the time you get to probably young teens, maybe even younger than that, right? You're seeing children today be diagnosed with ADHD at a much younger age. And so I think what happens is our mind just becomes really conditioned to just constantly thinking, 24/7 thinking. You'll hear a lot about people that have go into therapy, or people that have insomnia. And what is it that they can't do? They can't fall asleep. And why can't they fall asleep? They can't fall asleep because their minds won't stop, right? And so that's another form of distraction. In my line of work in alcoholism and drug addiction, what we kind of generally treat is we treat a spiritual malady, which means that you're not connected with yourself. But the thing that disconnects you, the thing that we believe disconnects you that we treat, is the mind, right? It's the constant stream of, it's like a tape that plays constantly over and over, and it sucks up our attention. So if you're thinking about distraction, So what is distraction, right? Distraction is attention not being focused, essentially, right, into whatever it is that you're doing currently in the present moment. So you nailed it. It's prevalent in drug addiction and alcoholism, as well as a myriad of other mental health disorders.
That's very well said, Patrick. Lack of focus. Are a lot of people just at the point where they don't know where to focus, how to focus? Are we at a point where, I don't know, being inundated with information that some people are going to try to take it all in, but they really need to focus on their strengths and so forth so that they are able to filter stuff? Am I assimilating what you're saying correctly?
Yeah, I think that if you've ever heard the term, so focus in itself is if you just think about what we are, like what we truly are internally on a consciousness level, right? So yes. We're not our minds. We know we're not our minds, right? It feels like we're our mind, or it feels like we are our thoughts, but we know we're not. And how do we know that? Because I have 30,000 thoughts a day. So I can't be that, right? Because they pass through. They're happening all day long, and they go through a cycle, and it'll come back. I might have the same thoughts reoccur, and I might believe a thought, but I know I'm not the thought. I'm not my emotions either, because my emotions come and go. And then I'm also not my life circumstances, because my life circumstances come and go. But what happens in all three of those cases is our attention, right, gets sucked up into those. And then I start to believe on my thought. Now that's distraction, right, because the distraction isn't actually occurring outside of me. It's occurring inside of me. And so if you've ever ruminated on a thought, maybe it was a breakup when you were maybe your first love, maybe that's usually the easiest one because everyone's been in love and everyone's usually broken up, and the person that's broken up or the person that's that just didn't want to break up, it usually ruminates, right? Because they want to get back into the relationship. Mm-hmm. And so if you just use that case as an example, and you just use what rumination is, what it is it's really drawing in your attention, right? And so the problem isn't even really the thoughts that are occurring. The problem is my attention, and that's why a lot of kids are diagnosed at an early age with ADHD and all through their lives, and they put on medication to try to help them focus better. There are certain classifications. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't want to lead anyone astray. I do believe in psychiatry and being on a medication that you need to be, but I also believe in treating it holistically, right? I believe that there are other practices that we can get into that can retrain our attention to be back in the present moment, right? To be back here right now. And I can talk about those in a minute, but I think you hit it again. It's been habitual. If you've ever heard the term mindfulness, I'm sure you've heard the term. It's a really hot term right now. It's been a hot term for the past 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. So if you just took that term mindfulness, okay, what exactly is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness is just simply taking your attention and putting it in what you're doing right now. So an example of that for me would be as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm not sitting here talking to you and thinking about what I need to do tonight, right? I'm sitting here talking to you, and I can feel my feet on the ground, right? I hear a little silence in the background, which is you because you're not talking. I can feel my back on the chair, and I'm actually present right here. So my attention is here with me. It's with my body. It's actually here. And I think that so much of life is lived with our attention not here in the present moment. And here's the crazy thing about that. If you miss the present moment, you miss life, because that's the only place it happens. It's always now, right? So that's what all the sages and the saints and the mystics and all the spiritual teachers of all the ages are trying to teach us, is that life is occurring right now, and as much as we can to be present in the moment right here, right now, because that's where life is occurring.
I'm very interested in your thought, Patrick, about the mind, our focus. Do people, from your observation, tend to focus on the negative? In other words, our mind drifts to various thoughts. It would be my observation, again, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm maybe the farthest thing from that. But I'm just curious if your observation is that some people just tend to gravitate to the negative that results in stress and takes us down a path of doing stuff that leads us into a life of not good decisions.
Yeah, I think that's pretty apt description. My own personal experience and my observational experience has been that people generally avoid anything that they term to be negative. And they do that from a place, they do that for one reason, and that's because they're trying to get to a place where they're okay inside themselves. So that turns in all types of avoidance, right? So I'll avoid any type of negative, anything that I perceive as being negative, right? And I'll go to any lengths to do that because it causes me internal pain because I don't feel like non-acceptance would be one of the terms, right? So negative, anything negative I try to run from. What ultimately is happening is I'm trying to get to a place that I think I'm going to be okay, right? So a lot of the times when you hear somebody go through a divorce or something major, you'll hear somebody say, well, just accept it, or you got to let go of it. It'll be okay. And what they don't say that acceptance and letting go or whatever the situation is a process. It's not an event. And so what happens is people don't know that it's a process. They get stuck in a negative emotion, and that negative emotion perpetuates itself through the mind, right? So if you've ever been, think about if you're ever in nature, if you're driving down the road and sometimes you could be totally fine, and then a song will come on and it'll remind you of a past negative event or something like that, and then all of a sudden what will happen is your emotion will come up, and then you'll kind of get stuck in that emotion. Well, when people get stuck in an emotion, there becomes avoidance because it's painful. To be stuck in an emotion, to be stuck in a resentful emotion, to be stuck in a fear-based emotion, when you're in fear, you're contracted, your body is contracted. It's actually like really tight. That's actually a painful place. We don't really see it necessarily as painful to be a little feared up, but it is a painful place, and that turns into all kinds of avoidance. When really the way to get through it is to do the opposite. If you go through a negative event in your life, because every negative event is going to bring on emotion, and that emotion has a lifespan. And that we don't know how long the lifespan is. No one can tell you that. But what we can tell you that is if you avoid it and run from it, you're going to prolong that lifespan. So really the way out is in. The way out of that emotion is to actually turn into it and feel the emotion, because it's the only way you can get through it. The only way you can get through a negative event is to actually feel the emotion and not contribute to it with a story, which turns to distraction, because what can happen is if I'm sitting here with my emotion, my mind will start running again, right? And that's the distraction. It's pulling my attention in away from the present, which is right now I'm sitting here to pull it out of that. And then that's what we turn to be distraction. But really what it is our mind, it's our attention being pulled away, right, our attention.
Do you help your people who are dealing in some form of substance abuse to deal with what you just said? That is, and I'm thinking, train the mind. You're probably dealing with a lot of people who you inherit them, so to speak, with X number of decades of chronological life. They are a product of the family, the background, and so forth. But can you, as a part of your work, that you do train the mind to think positive and deal with whatever emotions they're going through?
Yeah, we do. I wouldn't use the term train the mind, but what we do is we try to get the person unblocked from the mind. And so I'll explain that a little bit. So the 12-step process is designed to unblock or disidentify a person with their thoughts and emotions and life circumstances, which is what I was talking about that earlier. So when we can learn to disidentify with it, and it doesn't mean on a practical level, right? On a practical level, I have to think about next week, and I got to look at my past, and I got to get up and I go to work, and I'm going to have these emotions that I go through during the day. But on a absolute level, what we want to do is we want to disidentify with those things, so they're not as life or death when they occur, because they are going to occur, right? So it's more of a letting go, letting the mind do what it's ever going to do and not attaching to it or not identifying with it. And basically what that means is I don't believe that whatever the thought stream that's going through my mind right now, I don't believe it to be me. I don't get mixed up in that manner. And so there's a couple different tools we use. The 12 steps are the number one tool for an alcoholic or a drug addict. But we also do meditation. We practice present moment awareness, which is mindfulness. And mindfulness is just, all it means is you're just putting your attention into whatever you are doing right now. And then the perfect example of that would be I just picked up a cup of tea, right? And the cup of tea is warm, and I got chamomile tea in it. And I'm holding on to the cup. And what I'm doing is I'm feeling the warmth of the cup on my hand, and I'm feeling the weight of the cup. And so my attention is right here, right now. Now, in a drug addict and an alcoholic, our attention will be usually future-based or past-based. So I'm usually living in the past, right? I'm bringing pain from the past with me right now, from an old relationship or something that happened to me, maybe in my childhood, et cetera. Or I put my attention in the future, and I almost create like a future goal of at what point I'm going to be happy. And so when this happens, and when I get married, and when I get this job, and when I get this car, I'm going to be happy. And so we put it in the future. But both of those, they're not practical ways to live, because the only moment that's ever happening is the one happening right now, right? And so if I can't get at peace with the present moment, with right now, I'm never going to be in peace in the future, ever, right? And I haven't been in peace in the past. And so what happens is I bring those things into the now. So, yeah, we absolutely work with that 100%.
Can a person who's not dealing in substance abuse benefit from this 12-step program? And I'm asking the question in the context, does a person, an instructor, or whatever the term may be, do you have to be certified in that 12-step program?
No, that is an excellent question, because I have helped people with the 12 steps that are not alcoholic and drug addict. Basically what the steps are, and I'm not affiliated, Recovery Centers of America is not affiliated nor represents any of the 12-step programs, but we have a lot of people that work there and that go through our course that do go through the 12 steps. There's no certification process. It's completely anonymous and free. What we do require is that the person who is teaching or helping somebody else with the 12 steps has gone through it themselves. Really, all they really are, Ron, is they're just simply spiritual practices that have been assembled in a way to help alcoholics. But it doesn't mean they can't help other people, because all the practices actually come out of other spiritual traditions, such as meditation, such as helping others. Our 12th step is about altruism, about getting out and helping others. Our 11th step is about prayer and meditation. Our 10th step is about just getting present. Our 9th step is about paying back, making amends to people you've harmed. And so these principles are not 12-step, drug and alcohol-based principles. They're really spiritual principles that just have been assembled in a way to really help alcoholics and drug addicts, but they can help anybody.
Yes. One of the principles we have discussed in these podcasts is whatever it is you're seeking, whatever it is you want, learn to give that. And you want to be accepted, then practice accepting other people. And on the surface, it sounds very counterintuitive. I mean, you really have to, it seems, practice that to be able to overcome anything of the past. But that principle, give first whatever it is you need, and it will be given to you, is a principle that I have found personally works with me, and some others have testified it works with them.
Absolutely, and you struck another chord. At the core of alcoholism and drug addiction is self-centeredness, and so I make everything about me. And the antidote for that self-centeredness is to start making everything about somebody else, right? And so it's funny because we go through life and everyone says, you hear this all the time, you got one life, you better get what you can. Get what you can out of life. Well, what if we didn't get what we could out of life when we started contributing to life? What if we decided we're not going to steal, we're going to start putting back in, right? And that's one of the core principles. Our step 12 is about this: having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we carry this message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And ultimately, what that is about is altruism, right? It's about giving back without expecting anything in return. And you could look at all the studies in the world that have ever been done on altruism, and there's one thing that you can do in your life to make you happy. One. Or it's been proven over and over. The number one thing you could do, not one thing, the number one thing you could do to make yourself happy, and it's to give to others without expecting anything in return. And that's been proven time and time again through every spiritual tradition.
Your life has been transformed from the past. Our listeners can listen to that podcast, but I'm guessing your life has been transformed, if not literally through the 12-step program, at least by the basic precepts we're discussing right here. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I never had, I was in a really bad addiction in alcoholism, and I had lost everything. I was really hopeless, and from that place of hopelessness, it opened my mind to some new concepts and ideas. I mean, I lost some of my doubt and prejudice, And so when I became open, my life has completely been transformed. We just spent a year. I mean, COVID has affected everyone in different ways, right? I know a lot of people that have families, and it's been difficult staying at home with their families because they have 3 kids, and the kids are running around, and it's just constant madness, right? Mine's a little bit opposite. My situation is I'm single, and I have a condo by myself. And so last March, we went home on March 13th, and we worked from home. We started working from home. I'm lucky and blessed that I had a job, right? Some people were laid off, unfortunately. And some jobs went away and they didn't come back. I was lucky and I stayed. I had a job. But I've been pretty much alone for about the past year, and I can't tell you, I've never been more content or happy in my life at any point previous. And this is included with being because I work from home, so I work from home most of the time, and most of the time we were quarantined. Now, if you had told me a couple of years ago or 5 or 7 years ago that I would be able to sit in a room, sitting in my apartment by myself for a year and be relatively content and happy and with life, I would have told you were crazy. But I'm content with myself, so I'm able to sit with myself now, right? I'm able to be okay and be alone. And it was through all the things we were talking about earlier, right? This isn't something that I came up with and I did. This is something that was taught to me, and I practiced, and I started getting connected to a power greater, to power running this universe, right, which is actually in us. And so when I started to get connected, I started to be okay. Yeah.
You've mentioned process. You mentioned hopelessness. I'm discerning what you're saying is there's no true hopelessness. There's always hope. No matter what it is you're going through, you can come out on the positive side. But I'm hearing the word process also, which tells me there's probably not a quick fix to this. But if you are willing to work with a person, and I'm assuming a person who may be, I'm not sure the word suffering is right, but it's a commonly used term, a person who's suffering from despair, distractions, and so forth, if that's where they are in life, find somebody. Or for us to be proactive, engage in a person's life, and you can, through a process, help them through what may seem at the time to be hopelessness or despair. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I met the gentleman that took my sponsor, that took me through the steps, you know, the first thing is I knew that he knew what I was talking about because you nailed it, because it was about suffering. We call it a suffering alcoholic. And so I was suffering deeply, and I didn't see any way out. You really suffer when you don't see any way out, right? That's when you really start suffering. And so by virtue of him walking the same path, I knew instantly in my heart that this guy knew what he was talking about, and it was almost like a key unlocked the door for me. So it wasn't like people barking at me and telling me orders and I should go do this and do that and do this and do that. I already tried all that and it didn't work. But this gentleman had walked a similar path, and I knew it immediately. And out of that path, here's the crazy thing if you think about it. It was his 12th step, which I just quoted to you a little while ago. My recovery started out of him doing his 12th step. And his started out of his sponsor doing his 12th step. And they were both hopeless. And so most of the time what you'll find, you said one of the terms you use to become willing, and that's a key term that we use in the program that I'm in, is there's three things are indispensable. It's honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And if you have those 3 things, you can recover from anything. Usually what prevents us from recovering is our own rigidity, our own closed-mindedness, and prejudice and doubt. That's really what happens. But the hopelessness and the pain and the suffering, life will give you the lesson you need to learn, right? It'll keep giving it to you until you learn it, unfortunately, right? And so out of that hopelessness, you can be born of a new life. And I'm not doing things I'm not doing crazy stuff. I'm from Philadelphia, and I still live very similar to what I used to, but my spirit and my mind and my heart and my body and all that has been completely changed.
For the person who is just listening intently, they're in the moment with you right now, and you gave them a call to action, that this call to action would be the start you need to lead a better life, to get out of despair, to avoid distractions, and you're willing to work a process, what would be that call to action?
Yeah, there's one thing that everyone could, there's 2 things actually, but there's one thing that everyone could do that if they did this, they did this one thing for the next year, it would bring about a profound change within them that probably nothing else could do, and it would be really simple. It's watch your breath. In other words, watch your breath, your breathing. So your breath, the most natural thing that we do as human beings is breathe, right? It's like we breathe, I don't know how many times a day, but we don't have to think about it. It's so natural to us. And so if you when you were in line at the bank and you were waiting, or you were in line at the grocery store, or you were sitting at home in the morning, or you were sitting in your car and you were at the red light, or you were we wait all day long. Most of our lives are waiting for something. If you just took the times you were waiting and you placed your attention on your breath and followed it into your body and followed it out of, that's meditation, followed it into your body and followed it out of your body, it would bring about an absolute transformation in your consciousness. In other words, you would be freed from the incessant trappings and prison that the mind creates for us. Because it's all about the mind. It's all about the mind imprisoning us, right? If I didn't think, if I was sitting right here and I wasn't thinking and I just was present, there would be not a problem in the world. The problem gets introduced when I start thinking about all the things I need to do, which takes us back to the distractions. So if you just took that one exercise for the next year and you followed your breath as much as you could and you watched it go in and go out, and you just followed it for the next year, it would bring forth a profound change in your consciousness and your presence.
That's a great way of stating that. I'm retired Air Force and aviation. I can tell you the word hyperventilate, I know what can happen, that you're just standing, and the faster you breathe, you can make yourself faint through that, and your stress level builds, your blood pressure, and so forth. I know exactly what you're saying. If we are conscious of our breathing, which to the listener may sound just far too elementary, I can tell you that you are right on target with that.
Yeah, and that word is the operative word. One conscious breath, and then you take that to 2 conscious breaths, and then you go to 3 conscious breaths. And when you're conscious of your breath, guess where you are? You're in the present moment, and you're in life because it's happening now. It's always now.
Is there another axiom, another practice that do accept if a person chooses to engage with you? In other words, they see that you're in a funk, you are distracted, whatever term may apply. I have no intention of applying a stigma or labeling, but if a person sees you that way, just choose to engage with them, allow them to help you. Is that another part that would be good?
Yeah, I think keeping an open mind, right? One of the things that happens is we believe that we know how to figure this thing out, right? So if I'm in depression or I have an anxiety or something like that, I start to believe that nothing's going to work, or I start to get real closed-minded. And there's people that can help, somebody that can help you when you're hopeless, and there really is. It depends on what's happening that's causing the hopelessness, right? But I will say that when you can find somebody that's going through a similar thing, and that's why the support groups are so important. Right, and not just Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and Overeaters Anonymous, all the support groups, codependency, all the support groups. There are people that go through cancer treatments and different types of medical and health issues that have local support groups. And they're so important because the people that have walked the same path as you, there's an instant connection. And you can't fabricate it. Like I could never walk into I'll use the cancer one. I can never walk into a support group for cancer patients and fake my way through it. I can't, right? So there's a connection that happens when people have walked the same path. And so that's all. I always go back to, you can find local support groups, and they're online as well, and you can always find help in those areas because generally speaking, humans go through the same things. There may be a little variance, of course, right? But generally speaking, we kind of go through the same things, the same emotions, the same reactions, et cetera, et cetera. And you can always turn to your local support groups, and there's a connection that occurs when some people have had the same experience, and it's so key because it really can unlock a door. I'll start listening to Ron because I know Ron was an alcoholic, right? But I'm not going to listen to Marty because I know Marty's not, right? Marty doesn't understand, and that's why that understanding can really foster an experience, a connection, and that connection is grace. You know what I mean? It's grace. It really is.
I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. Thank you for sharing from the heart. You have a very definite resolve about your voice, and that is good. and people resonate with those who are resolved, having been through life experience, and you're on the positive side. So on behalf of our listeners, thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ron. Thank you so much, Marty, for having us. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm always available to help in any way I can.
Great, Patrick. This is wonderful. Very, very informative.
Thank you so much.
What are your thoughts on distractions, life purpose, focus, intentionality? All of those topics are related. I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are. Have you been involved in or possibly been in a target for distractions? Is it possible that you have been engaged in distractions, that you are easily distracted, lacking a life purpose, focus? Just curious. Engage with us. It's my observation that a lot of people are engaged in distractions. They don't think of it as anything other than just life, but we are engaged at times in a circle of events that we're lacking a purpose, we're not focused, and we're not achieving what we can as our total life purpose and live a potential that we were designed for. Let's chat about that. Engage with us. Let us know what your thoughts are. Contact us at 410-586-1875 or Ron at thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, at thecooperculture.com, and let us know your thoughts. We're very aware that there are some people who lack focus because of distractions that are very deeply embedded in their life. There have been things said to or about them that cause them to be distracted because they are encountering doubts in their life, and those doubts have become real and actually are controlling some people such that they are not willing to take on various projects for which they are likely are very capable and have the talent and drive to do, but because of maybe past experiences of failings, things said to or about them, are reasons that they're not willing to lean forward and take on various topics. Coaching is one aspect that can help people through life doubts, life experiences, to where when dealt with, the answer actually lies within the person, that when we ask them open-ended questions, we can uncover many of the things that are working in a person's life that have become controlling factors from the subconscious that are creating in this person doubts, and they're controlling the person's actions. Let's talk. Let's talk about coaching and how that may help you or those within your circle of influence over various topics that are keeping anyone from living and achieving their life purpose. Coaching can help that person over a period of time overcome any self-doubts, anything that has been said to them in the past, and help these people achieve a life purpose to live their life to their fullest potential. Let's discuss the various aspects of distractions and how they may be having an impact on you. We look forward to working with you.